Hello everyone, it's me Lemoni, and I hope all of you are well today. I hope you had a great weekend, and I'm here on Monday just to make your day a little bit better. I'm bringing you my version of the metas for patch 1.2 healing, what I believe to be the most effective for both PvE and PvP healing. Now, not a lot of things have changed in the PvE scene, but I've done a lot of thought, a lot of testing, and figured out, okay, what is going to actually work the best and make sure that we're not getting really overhealing, but being an effective healer, giving our group utility, and doing everything we can to push content the fastest that we can. So by making a few changes to the life staff and the Void Gauntlet abilities, I think it just puts us in a better position overall in PvE, even though there weren't any direct nerfs to the life staff itself. I think by having this new toolkit, by doing a lot of testing, you do damage vicariously through the group while still maintaining a ton of healing over time. And you really have no issues. A lot of the time, I just end up healing with my main Void Gauntlet and pushing cooldowns for the group while maintaining an orb protection on them. It is easy, it's efficient, it's fun, and you do a lot of damage with your life staff. Now on the PvP side of things, you'll see things are pretty familiar compared to my last PvP video. I'm still using the Rapier, I'm still using the life staff, and I'm still using Beacon. I did consider opting for Orb and PvP healing, but through my 2 weeks of testing and actually playing against the disease meta in PvP, I've adjusted my attributes a little bit and just figured this to be the most solid PvP build, and we'll talk about why later. But the Rapier gives us enough escape for all CC that comes our way, it gives us the mobility we need, and the skills we take for our life staff give us enough healing output to basically conquer anybody's attack. We have enough focus to heal through pretty much anything. We can get these huge heals like up to 8k with our Light's Embrace, and using these specific healing settings that I'll mention later, we can heal pretty much anybody. This PvP setup will allow you to succeed in wars, OPR, open world, whatever you want to do as a healer, and we'll talk about how you can kind of adjust your attributes and adjust your role slightly to perform better in each environment. Now, let's get into some of these deep dives for each of the build setups and their secondary weapons so that we can further elaborate on this type of gameplay and help all of you succeed in patch 1.2 in the healer role. Alright, so first things first, let's cover PvE healing. So I'll give you the primary and the secondary for that. Where are we going to go? Let's start on the healing side, and I want to say for both of these builds, the healing side will be identical. But we'll take Absolved because we don't want to use mana on light and heavy attacks, and we'll take Blissful Touch and Mending Touch. Blissful Touch is one of the strongest healing abilities, and it is very, very slept on. I've had people tell me they don't take Blissful Touch, and that is a mistake. You get so much healing out of Blissful Touch. I'm healing sometimes when they're standing in Sacred Ground with full healing effectiveness for 800 a hit per person. It is absolutely absurd. Please take it and please take advantage of it. We'll also take Mending Touch for PvE because there's so many debuffs that you can remove. Roots, bleeds, fire dots, everything, and it reduces a lot of damage and gives you a lot of group utility. We'll take Sacred Ground because this is one of our strongest heals, but we'll take it so that we can get Blessed. And Blessed is going to give us this 50% more healing from all sources. And the real big thing with Sacred Ground is it synergizes really well with the way we're going to play our Void Gauntlet. This way of kind of using Reap Soul to reduce cooldowns and take a lot of damage, but then keep Oblivions rolling. We'll just sit in our Sacred Ground, and we can do that all day. Desperate Speed gives us that little bit more of cooldown reduction we need. Revitalize also gives us cooldown reduction, and if you combo these with something like Refreshing Move on a life staff like I have, I'm hitting, and things are just crazy off cooldown. It is absurd because they stack together. We'll then take Intensify because it's a great source of bonus healing, 30% more healing. You just keep that rolling. Once in a while, weave in a heavy attack, super easy. And then we'll take Sacred Protection, 5% more healing to everybody in the group. This is a buff that also applies to Light's Embrace, giving it a 30% higher floor, something we've mentioned in the past. A lot of healing too will come from Divine Blessing. When you heal somebody below 50% health, they have a 30% bigger heal. Just all this healing effectiveness combo together synergizes extremely well when we start to introduce things like Blessed on the life staff or something like Bend Light. We get a 20% more effective heal after we dodge, so a lot of the time you'll just see me dodging around just habitually. I'll do it before every single heal just to make sure it's up. Bend Light is fantastic. So the big thing with PvE that I noticed is I would like to take Orb of Protection. Now, why am I doing that and not opting for Beacon like I do in PvP or like I did in PvE in the past? I'm overhealing with Beacon. I can tell. I just heal a ton. That's why I take it in PvP. But for PvE, I don't need that much healing, And I've also figured that with the way I'm playing my Void Gauntlet and throwing out orbs on the Void Gauntlet for healing over time, giving my team Essence Rupture, and trying to play for Oblivion, that maintaining an orb is actually one of the most effective ways to keep everybody topped off and still do everything I want to do with the Void Gauntlet. It gives you this about 12-second heal over time, gives them the 20-second fortify, so they're able to maintain their own health really, really well because they have this small hot on top. They're also taking less damage, and the Void Gauntlet just keeps them up. So we take Orb of Protection. It's another way to get some damage out. You can weave in a heavy attack and animation cancel the end and throw an orb at them. We'll do that. They get this recovery buff, so you get a little bit of healing. It's a 6% heal, and then when you hit somebody with the orb, you get the fortifying recovery. This is one of the big reasons I take it too, because again, I am losing a lot of health with the way I'm playing my Void Gauntlet, and we can no longer toe dip with Beacon. So to get some self-sustain, to make this work better, I opt for Orb now. Yes, we do lose one more point, so we don't actually end up taking Spirits United. So you'll see I have to take Aegis so that I can use this on myself in a pinch, and the cooldown's super low, so I can shoot it myself. It'll pretty much be back up after 1 to 2, 3 maybe light attacks, and then you can throw it back out on your team. So it's a great way of self-maintenance, but also group maintenance with the way that we play the Void Gauntlet. We'll also just take Protector's Touch, because this is so strong, getting a 15% fortify when you're actually main healing. You're not all the time just going to be having your Void Gauntlet out, so having this ability when you are shooting Blissful Touches, when you are trying to Light's Embrace or put Sacred Ground down, it can save your life, right? And then stack that with our 10% fortify and Orb, we have pretty much a 25% fortify always rolling, and that's why I start to opt not going into con and just pumping full focus. It just doesn't make sense with how much fortify we have and ways to heal ourselves and maintain healing over time. Our last ability we'll take is Light's Embrace, and like I was saying, every buff that we put on a target gives us 30% more healing. So because we have Sacred Protection, that gives us a baseline 110%, which is only 10% lower than Divine Embrace, but the heal time and the cast time for this is so much shorter than it is for Divine Embrace that's just not even worth taking Divine. Now, the other big thing is since we're taking Orb, we're putting 2 more buffs on them, giving us a 60% to add on to Light's Embrace pretty much constantly. So it's probably around a 170% heal pretty much, 100% of the time. We can keep Orb up on everybody because the heal over time and the fortify are longer than the cooldown. And that's without even calculating in, okay, what about Revitalize proccing? Or what about Desperate Speed? Or what about our just general refreshing move? It's pretty easy to maintain, and so that's why I end up opting for my last point into Protector Strength, just to give a 10% more heal whenever we have a buff, so that Orb hits harder, Sacred Ground hits harder, Light's Embrace gets a little bit harder, but not Spirits United. We have to take Aegis so that we can heal ourselves and make it easier to hit our allies, and that's why I don't opt for this. If you want to, you can if you want a bigger Light's Embrace, if you just want that 30% more healing on the top, but I think we get more effectiveness through something like Protector Strength as opposed to that. So this is my PvE healing on the Life Staff. If you're coming from the bookmark, we are running Sacred Ground, Orb of Protection, and Light's Embrace. Orb of Protection we have opted for instead of Beacon because I was getting so much overheal from Beacon, and using Orb now allows us to self-sustain better because we can no longer toe dip in Beacon, meaning we can play a little bit more of a dangerous Void Gauntlet game to buff up our team and pump out a ton of extra damage across the board. Now, on the Void Gauntlet side of things, if you watched my patch 1.1.1 healing video, you'll notice a major difference. For this setup, I will not be taking Void Blade. Why is that? Because I think we can get more damage by taking Oblivion and forcing cooldowns and giving the damage to our group. So we are a damage dealer vicariously through our team. We are a support role. So how are we going to set this up? I'm going to take 10% crit chance while above 50% health, and we're going to take all the points into Oblivion. Oblivion is fantastic because we both get an Empower, 20% damage increase. It's a 6-second duration, but we can keep this up pretty often. And the other big reason is that, for one, it does a 30% weapon damage dot over time, so it's great for PvP, PvE if you want to use it. But the other thing is that everybody inside of Oblivion gets a weaken, and that stacks up to 3 times, so it's 15%, lasting 5 seconds. So on a boss fight, that's 15% less damage that our tank has to have, right? It's just another way of giving our group a little bit more utility, but the beautiful thing too is that everybody within it gets 15 stamina per second while inside the radius. So again, for the tank, while they're blocking, why not take that extra stamina so they can take more blocks? absolutely fantastic. But the real big thing is we push damage checks so much in PvE because we just have an extra 20% in power across the board. Fantastic, my group loves it, and for some reason this style of gameplay is just a ton of fun. We'll also take refreshing precision here. So we get 10% cooldown reduction on all abilities on critical hit. Well, why am I taking this? I want as much crit synergy as I can because I end up running Orb and I end up running Essence Rupture, and these can both crit, meaning I can reset these longer cooldowns like Oblivion when I get a crit, because both of these can crit. So when I Orb and I hit through them and hit multiple targets, I could get up to 3 crits and get a ton of extra cooldown to just maintain 100% uptime on Oblivion or Essence Rupture. So to finish out the Annihilation tree, I end up just taking Leeching Agony because why not get some extra healing potential? I will then also take Frailty to get some more cooldown reduction because this applies to 3 or more debuff stacks and it can be from any debuff, right? Well, we just get a 3 debuff stack alone from Oblivion. So I think there's some potential there. And again, we'll take whatever we can to get some extra crit, extra cooldown. We'll also take Humility because why not? Extra crit chance. And then for me, I just end up taking Empowering Proximity because that's where I can end up using the point, and the other spots, there's not as much value. We'll then go on to this side. Essence Rupture is one of the strongest heals in the game. I will stand by that ever, and you can debate it with me in the comments if you want, but you put a mark on a target that lasts for 10 seconds, and anybody that hits that target will get a 20% heal for the damage they've done. So it's a 20% leech essentially. So if you have somebody hit for 1,000, it's 200, right? But as a damage dealer, you're hitting much harder than that and continuously. So it's a great way of maintaining your own health without a lot of work from the healer. And that's why we can start to force, Oblivions. And the great synergy with Oblivion is when I put this on, they essentially just get 20% more healing to themselves. It's fantastic. And so having Essence Rupture is what allows us to just put orbs on everybody, maintain their health that way, and they do the rest of the work. And the reason why we can pretty much just shut our brain off during that moment is we'll take this and they'll get 15 stamina whenever they hit the target. Again, great for the tank. But after that 10 seconds, we get an 80% weapon damage heal that scales off focus. So this pops for me like 2.5 to 3K. If people are standing in Sacred Ground, I hit that top end, but generally it's at least 2K. It's absurd, right? So, they start to maybe take a little bit chunk of health. Well, Essence Rupture just pop, boom, all good, easy. It's a fantastic heal, but the reason why it is so good is because it's global, right? Anybody. I don't have to aim at them. I don't have to do anything. It is a global AoE form of healing that is very easy to maintain, especially when we're reducing cooldowns on our Void Gauntlet. Now, speaking of reducing cooldowns, the big thing is Refreshing Harvest. So when we're using Harvest Essence, our cooldowns are reduced by 10% while performing the ability. So we sit there just going like this. Half the time I'm just walking around going like this because I want that cooldown reduction. We reduce it enough so that we can start throwing out Orb or throwing out Essence Rupture so that we just get those potential crits and then reduce cooldowns even more, right? That's the bread and butter. You keep up Essence Rupture, you keep maintaining Oblivion, and we keep throwing out Orbs of Decay for a heal over time while reducing cooldowns. And you want to make sure while you're using this that we use Orb of Protection or stand in our own Sacred Ground to make sure we maintain our health because we won't be able to heal during that window and we'll be taking damage. The other things we take, we'll go into just slowing Orb. Why not? Because we want to get to detonating Orb. What we can do with detonating Orb is we send it out. It'll hit everybody on the way back when it's green, and it can apply a heal over time. This heal over time for me is ticking for like 600. It's a really solid number. It's actually pretty crazy. But what can happen is right as you hit somebody with the heal over time, you can still pop this Orb, right? Even if it comes all the way back to me and the Orb disappears, right as it disappears, you can still hit that and it will pop for about 1.5 to 2K. Somewhere in that range, and that's just additional healing. They get the heal over time and they get the extra Orb pop. It's a little bit harder to actually maintain and to use, but when you get that opportunity, it is a fantastic extra burst heal. If in that moment maybe somebody took a sword swing while you're trying to throw this out, why not just transition it into a burst heal and top them off? What else are we going to do then? I take Radiant Efficiency, reduced mana cost. While mana isn't really a big issue because we're just constantly getting mana back with the Void Gauntlet, sometimes you do throw out some things and you need that little bit of mana because you're going to switch back and forth to the Life Staff and you don't have time to hit a right-click mana regen. So sometimes that's just the most effective thing to do. Now this last point, it's kind of up to you. What you could take is Mending Evasion. So when you dodge with full mana, you just get a quick burst heal. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. or you can take Extended Suffering. And what that's going to do is when you ranged heavy attack, it's going to increase the duration of non-crowd control debuffs you have applied on the target by 10%. Meaning, we throw out Orb, and this is the other big reason we take Orb, it applies a rend. So you can kind of maintain this rend if you're hitting with a heavy attack on your Void Gauntlet, but I don't think it's super worth. I think it's a little bit hard, and so I just generally opt for taking the evasion one, because why not potentially have this quick burst heal? It's on a 20-second cooldown only. It's a decent amount of healing if you're in a kind of like oh crap situation, and we are very easily able to put our mana to the top. I think just taking the 5% Orb of Decay rend the majority of the time is better than trying to maintain it with the heavy attack on the Void Gauntlet. Void Gauntlet heavy attacks don't hit very hard. They're a little clunky and pretty slow, and I'd rather just do damage with my life staff at that point. So I end up opting for that. This, for everybody coming from the bookmark, is my PVE healing Void Gauntlet. You'll be maintaining Oblivion, throwing out Orb of Decay as much as you can to give a 5% rend, do some extra damage, potentially crit so that we can get Oblivion back online, and to apply this heal over time. It's a chunky, girthy heal over time, and we can pop our Orb of Decay right as people get the healing over time to do an additional heal. Fantastic. But the best piece of this build is having Essence Rupture. It is a global AoE heal. It's a leech that everybody in your group gets, and after the 10-second duration, it pops for additional healing. And because we take Refreshing Harvest, we'll be sitting there just right-clicking, going like this again, and this has pretty much 100% uptime. Very easy, super great for group PvE content, and this will surely be my favorite thing to use once challenge mode dungeons come out. We're trying to push things faster and faster and faster. Give this build a shot. Your damage comes vicariously through your group, like I've been saying, but it is a ton of fun. All right, so for PvP healing, here we are back on the life staff actually. And what you'll notice is on our healing side, I've left everything the same. This is the bread and butter. This is what I like to go for. I like having Mending Touch in PvP. I can remove roots of somebody who's been screamed. I can, get rid of the healing reduction things that get applied to people so that they can heal themselves a little bit more. I can get rid of fire debuffs. It does take a little bit more aim, but I think it has way more potential than something like Enchanted Justice. Like we've talked about, that 120-second cooldown is just not worth. So generally, I opt for a Mending Touch so I can remove CC from people and help them out of the battlefield. Now, Protector side, what do? Bend Light. So strong, why not just take more healing effectiveness? Dash before you do everything. I'm dashing so much in PvP anyway, so I might as well take it. Then I'll go into Protector's Touch. Again, having this 15% Fortify can save your life, right? We will play medium armor in PvP, but in addition to that, having that 15% Fortify has saved my life more than one time. I promise you, you will notice a difference, and we are constantly light and heavy attacking, and as soon as you hit somebody, it's got pretty much 100% uptime. Now, where I do change some things is I don't take Orb for PvP. I stick with Beacon like I used to. Now, why do I take Beacon? Well, for starters, we're going to take the increased area of effect and the 5-second longer duration, but we are looking for more healing output. In the disease meta, I have noticed, I've tested this with Orb, I've tested it with Beacon, I've done a lot over the past week, I promise, and having that Beacon output is just absolutely absurd. Even if I get anti-healed, I'm able to still heal through things. If I'm sitting in a Sacred Ground, I have Beacon on myself, I have Revitalizing Beacon going, and I can Light's Embrace myself. This heal is the strongest heal possible. Yes, I will say that it does add a little bit of a skill gap. Okay, if you run Beacon in PvP, it is tough if you miss it. But let's normalize missing beacons. It's okay, it's going to happen once in a while. But even if you miss beacons once in a while, if you have Refreshing Move on your life staff and combo it with Revitalize and Desperate Speed, I'm hitting people and taking like 4 to 5 seconds off my beacon. So it's coming back online really, really fast. And the amount of AoE healing you do with Beacon and self-healing you do with Beacon, comboed with Sacred Ground and your Blissful Touches, it is just not even comparable. There's huge group PvP content happening, a lot of damage is going out. Throw a beacon onto somebody, they'll run around with it. It's a mobile heal, right? And it's persistent, it stays up, and I can generally have probably 80 to 100% uptime depending on how many shots I'm hitting that day, depending on my own accuracy. It is insane, people. And what I then also do is I take Speed of Light, so that when this is getting applied to people, they get a haste buff. When I go up and run into it, again, we can't toad it, but I can still play in it. I can get a 3-second haste buff to get away with all my other Rapier things. But the real key piece is that when we take Light's Embrace, this is one more buff on the person. Not only do they have the beacon buff, they also have the speed of light buff, meaning we have 2 more buffs, just like we would have when we have orb, meaning this is, again, 60% higher in addition to the 30% we get from just Sacred Protection, making it a baseline 170% heal. So I think that's worth it. Where do I opt for other points? I will then also take Protector Strength to get the 10% more healing. Now, in the past, I've always mentioned taking Spirits United because you get a higher Light's Embrace. You could do this in theory if you want that instead of Speed of Light, but in PvP content, this is only going to apply to the 5-man team you are in OPR or in a war with. This is not global, and that's why I generally opt for Speed of Light. It gives me the chance to always get that extra 30%, whereas this is only going to apply to yourself and whoever else is in your group. So in PvP, in my opinion, it's kind of wasted, and there's just doesn't make sense to use. Now, for Glowing Focus, that's another thing people actually try to opt for. What I will say is, Glowing Focus does not work on Beacon. It still doesn't. You'll see a duration increase, but it doesn't actually do anything, right? It'll still end at that 15-second mark. Don't take Glowing Focus unless you're running Orb, and I will even argue that there's no point, because if you take Glowing Focus into Orb, our Orb cooldowns are off enough that we don't even have to worry about getting 20% longer ones, because the durations of these already, because of our 200 focus bubble, already make them long enough. They're longer than the cooldown, so that we can just keep shooting them off on everybody, and we don't even have to worry. I think taking Glowing Focus is kind of a waste in general for all types of content. You do not have to run Beacon. You could just transition this into Orb if you feel more comfortable. Play with whatever you want to play with. This is just my own personal opinion. If we want to get past the disease meta, what I've been doing is just out healing it, right? They reduce your healing, just try and pump your healing even more with more focus. That's what I've been doing, honestly, and it's been working very, very well. So if you're coming from the bookmark, we're keeping our healing side the same, but we are opting for Beacon instead of Orb. All right, and so here we have the Rapier, the ultimate PvP secondary. I'm not going to go too far into this because I have a whole video essentially covering this build. This is what I thought was going to beat the 1.2 meta as well, and I'm still correct. Rapier is just nowhere close to anything else for PvP healing. It gives us the mobility we need between evade and tornado spin is what I'm going to call it, because I don't want to get made fun of. And it allows us to remove any CC potential with riposte. If we riposte a shockwave, a Path of Destiny, somebody comes up to us when we're in a grav well, we can riposte them and we can evade and tornado dash out. Super easy, very chill. And here's what we're going to do. Just take everything on this right side up to there. We're going to take swiftness, red curtains, and we're going to max this out. We're going to get our extra damage there. Take this. We're going to take extra stam on hit. And this is one that you can maybe take, but I just end up probably opting for. I'll take both of these. We get reduced cooldown by 1% on any hit. We'll also get 10% more damage when they have above 50% health. Your last point then, you can either take 10% more damage when your health is full, but I think if you're in a situation where, you know, you're having to whip out your Rapier to do damage, or you're up in their face to do a little bit extra damage, I think taking backside will actually be better. So after using Tornado Spin, your next crit within 5 seconds will deal 15% more damage. Why not take it? I think you can flex this into a pretty solid hybrid build out in the world. I've used it, I've put in some decks, and you pump. I'm not gonna lie, you can pump comboing it with evades and just dashing at the target and keeping your empowers up and just dancing around. Why is this so good? So we can evade backstep out of things, we get stamina back when we use it, we can dash into an evade to get more stam back to do a double dash cancel. And then we'll also have haste on it whenever we use it. So another nice bonus. You can also throw in some light attacks to reduce the cooldown of the ability. And, you know, whenever you dash, just throw in maybe 1, 2, and then dash away, right? It's super easy to keep its cooldown up. It is a super low cooldown to start at 6 seconds, and we have all these ways of reducing it. Riposte, I will say try to get Sundering Riposte too, and that's something we'll mention when we talk about gearing. But you just stick it out, and you can dodge any CC that comes at you, anybody that runs up to you, and then avoid them. Typically what I'll do is I'll riposte, I will evade back, and then I'll tornado dash out. Super easy to use. We'll then take this, all of your attacks become uninterruptible, but the big one is priority. So whenever we actually use riposte and we block somebody and hit them, it'll reduce the cooldown of all other Rapier abilities by 20%. So we actually stun them, our evade will be back up, our tornado spin will be almost back up, and we'll buy ourselves enough times that we can get a second one off if somebody's up in our face. Great one to take. And then why not just take an increased stun duration? These cooldowns don't really matter, but the big thing is taking quick lunge. If we do somehow by some means hit somebody and kill them with it while we're dashing out, it's another way to just get another one right off the bat. So we can basically double tornado. We'll also just take whatever swiftness we can get. Anytime you hit anybody, including with abilities, we get an increased haste bonus. Can stack up to 5 times, so 15% haste for 4 seconds will never hurt when we're trying to run away. The goal of the Rapier is using its abilities. It is strictly for utility, using it for haste, and getting out of the fight. It's going to allow you to stay alive when all of these Great Axe and Warhammer boys are on your face. So if you're coming from the bookmark, take all of the Grace side essentially, take whatever abilities you can to get out of CC, to have the most mobility that you can, and take all the passives to reduce cooldowns so that we can get away from people that are trying to lock us down in PvP content. All right, so I want to show you my attributes quick for PvE healing. This is what I'm at. I just focus pump. That's what it's going to come down to in this patch, is I'm putting in as much focus as I possibly can, and then the consumable I eat is either going to be a con or a focus consumable. I'll probably do focus because I feel good at this health range with my gear and my medium armor that I'll survive. Only reason I have this int is because of my Void Gauntlet. So if you want a little bit more Void Gauntlet damage and some actual life staff damage, you could try to go for 50 int, but I think you'll get more life staff damage just going for more focus. So that's typically what I do. Any points over 300 focus still have a ton of value. I do notice value on my healing numbers when I'm over 300. Now the bubble itself, the 300 focus bubble is awful. The rest of these, perfect for healing. The big ones, the 150 for 20% healing output, the 250 for 30 mana on self or group kills. So I just keep pumping focus in general. My con, I just like sitting here. I think it gives us enough health, and then we get that little bonus health by having 10% of our physical armor as health. This is what I would suggest for PvE healing. Now for PvP, I throw on my Rapier. I shoot for a Rapier that has focus con. They are kind of hard to find, and this is what my attributes look like then. I have a little bit more con, and quite honestly, again, what I do is I just eat a focus food. I think to overcome the disease meta, I pump focus. How do we get more healing while we're diseased and have less effectiveness? Better pump up your numbers. That's how I've been doing it. I've noticed that Fortify doesn't help a whole ton. Orb doesn't really give us the healing output we need, and doing this will help you succeed. So, in summation, with your attributes, pump focus, sit around 100 con-ish. All right, then gearing really fast. What I'm going to say is you can choose to be in medium or light. If you feel okay in light, go for it if you're more comfortable in it. Personally, I'm more okay in medium, and I feel like I have more survivability, so that there's times where I take a couple hits where I truly believe that since I was a medium, I didn't die, and I just feel much better. For gear, you will typically run in a medium, a 22.9, heavy helmet, heavy chest, medium gloves, light pants, medium boots. I am in a 21.8 because my gloves are light, so I can get Revitalizing Beacon. If you're in a light armor setup, you'll go light helmet, medium chest, light gloves, light pants, light boots, all that. So quickly, what are the perks you're looking for? In general, on armor, I have Void Bent Helmet, Void Bent Chest, and then my 3 off pieces. Between my 3 off pieces, I'm shooting for my healing perks. So like on my gloves, I have Revitalizing Beacon. On my pants, I have Accelerating Light's Embrace. And on my boots, I have Fortifying Sacred Ground. Fortifying Sacred Ground is hard, so it's on a green right now, and it's the only way I could get it to fit in. Don't make fun of me. Anyway, we will get better gear as time passes. We have plenty of time. For PvP, the main armor perks we're looking for are things like Resilient, Invigorated, the new physical aversion and elemental aversions, depending on what your physical and elemental resistances are. Get whatever works for you. I'll be shooting for onyxes in the armor. For accessories, on your neck, you're going to want the Infinity Crystal roll, but with focus. So that means you want Divine, Fortified, and Health. That would be ideal. Right now, I just have Health on mine. On the ring, you need something that has Sacred, whether it's Con and Sacred, Focus and Sacred, a Focus, Con, and Sacred. Get whatever you can. The second thing is kind of supplemental. Right now, I just have max mana. Ideally, I'd get like Refreshing or something like that. But right now, Sacred is the goal. On your earring, we would ideally have like Regenerating and Refreshing. I haven't found that, so I'm still running Ill-Gotten Gain. Regenerating, Refreshing Toast would be like your third one you'd want, and I have Duplicating Toast. So if we could swap out that Duplicating Toast for Refreshing, that would be ideal. That's what I would say for gearing. Shoot for onyxes if you need more physical resistance. Shoot for opals if you need more elemental. Aversion, Refreshing, any defensive stuff you can get, and then just fit in your 3 healing perks for whatever build you're doing. For PvP and PvE Lifestaff, Will of the Ancients from Lazarus is the absolute best roll. If you get this legendary, mine didn't roll like that because my gear score isn't high enough. And if that rolls legendary, you get Refreshing on it. in addition to the Blessed and Refreshing move, but you need Blessed on your life staff for healing output. You need to have a diamond for more healing output, and you need focus. Even if you get a green that just has Blessed, but you don't have the gem slot, it's going to get outpaced by something that is able to give another 15% healing on top of everything else. And then Refreshing move in PvP is just chunking Beacon down. It is making it easier to heal in PvE. Absolutely necessary and very, very nice. For PvE healing on my Void Gauntlet, I have some int. I don't want the int, but it's there. We want something with Blessed. I'll be getting a better Void Gauntlet probably today on stream. There's one you can craft that's 575 with Blessed at the Arcana station, but for now, find something with Blessed when you are solo healing. For PvP, I run my Rapier. This isn't the greatest Rapier in the world, but it is one with Focus Con. Find one with Con Focus, just straight Con, just straight Focus, whatever you can find. And then ideally the perk we'd like on here is Sundering Riposte so that we can put a rend on people. The perks aren't super necessary, but we want some actual beneficial stats coming out of this. As far as consumables, I keep Oak Fleshes on me so I can reduce physical damage in PvP and PvE for a short time. Mana potions, health potions, all that stuff. But the big one though is I always eat a 30 attribute food. These are typically pretty cheap, so whether it's focus, whether it's con, eat one of those two, whatever you want to do. I'll be doing focus just for more output. You can also throw on an energizing food with one of these stat foods, so I'll have tier 5 energizing foods. Eat this first, eat this second, you'll get mana regen on top of it. Also keep things like Honing Stones for more healer damage. You can also pop on coatings because more healer damage is just going to make things easier. So let's get into some PvP healing here. You'll see a lot of what I'm doing is shooting Blissful Touches through people. I think so many people underestimate how much Blissful Touch can do. You'll see I don't have group targeting on, so I can Lights Embrace literally anybody in this OPR. I'll be dropping Sacred Ground wherever there's a decent amount of damage, or if somebody's on top of me, I'll Sacred Ground myself. I'll be sure to stick beacons to my teammates and just keep Blissful Touching. Always be left clicking, and anybody you start to see get a little bit low, top them off with the Lights Embrace. If anybody gets up in your face, feel free to use your Rapier, riposte them, use Evade, Tornado Dash out, easy peasy. You can reposition and heal everybody that you need to on your team. My biggest thing is don't be afraid to run away, right? There are too many times where I'm trying to save stupid and I end up getting myself killed instead. Feel free to use your Rapier, reposition back to your team, use your dashes, use your evades, keep yourself topped off. You can see we do a ton of healing. I run back to my team so that we can continue the fight and actually succeed. You cannot solo heal through 10 people in this meta of diseases. Even 1 to 3 people can make sure that you're dead pretty easily. A 1v1 can kill you if they have the right perks on. So know when to reposition. So for PvE healing, what we're going to be using is mainly the Void Gauntlet. You'll see I maintain Essence Rupture on the target so everybody keeps themselves topped off. I will throw out orbs to make sure I get a heal over time, potentially getting a crit, so I can have Oblivion uptime. I keep Sacred Ground on everybody, I try to keep Orb on everybody, and maintain your Void Gauntlet buffs. You'll see then, I only use Oblivion in windows where I know we will have damage vulnerability, where we can actually put damage out. If I know there's potential for somebody to take a huge burst of damage or something to go wrong, I won't try to force the Oblivion cooldowns as much. But you'll see in these windows where I know I don't have to do as much healing, I'll just maintain my Void Gauntlet buffs and keep throwing down Oblivion. I sit here, I keep reducing cooldowns with my right click, and then I throw out Orb, throw out Essence Rupture to try and get cooldown reduction on crit and also maintain that healing. I do not really ever switch to my life staff except to throw out an Orb in these situations, and again, Oblivion is the key. Your damage will do so much more if you have Oblivion out for them. Do not focus on doing life staff damage as much. You can do enough if you want to, and make sure when you do, throw down your Oblivion, and when you hit the target with Essence Rupture on, you also leech and heal yourself. But the big thing is when you have downtime, try to get your Void Gauntlet cooldowns back up for the group. You want the boss to die as fast as possible, and as a support role, this is going to be the best way to do so. Just keep them marked. They will keep themselves topped off. It's very, very, very easy, and again, this style of play is a lot of fun. So I think this should equip you with the best PvP and PvE setups so that you can succeed in all forms of healing in 1.2. This is mainly a video just to touch on what I've learned from PvE healing so much and how we're actually going to counter the PvP 1.2 disease meta that we're seeing. Yes, when you get hit with diseases, it does hurt and it does affect you, but with more healing output through mediums like Beacon and throwing on more focus, it is very easy to overcome. So I hope this helps. I hope this gives you some guidance. It's a deep dive on everything that I could possibly think of so that you can succeed in New World. As always, if you want to connect with me, feel free to leave a comment. I will respond to you. Feel free to DM me in Discord. Do whatever you want to do. Come join our Discord. We have over 1,000 people. You can find that link below. Come follow me on Twitch. I will be streaming today. Hit up the live stream. Let me know what you think. If you need anything from me, DM me in whatever way you want to. Also follow us on TikTok, follow us on Twitter, follow all the socials. If you want to support me directly, feel free to hit up my Patreon. That'll also be linked below. Also, with us eventually hitting 15K YouTube subs, we will be doing a giveaway. So stay tuned on Twitter and TikTok for those. But as always, please keep doing that weird YouTube stuff. Like, comment, and subscribe. Ring the bell. Tell everybody you know. I would greatly appreciate it. Anyway, thank you all for watching. Thank you for listening. And thank you all for being you.